Okay, sweet. Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew. I am from the University of Calgary, and today I'm going to be presenting my poster paper, From Frustration to Fun, an adaptive problem-solving game powered by genetic algorithm. So why do we care about adaptive puzzle generation? Technology is being used increasingly to support learning in various different domains, particularly higher order thinking, such as problem solving, critical thinking, things like that. Puzzle games end up being a really good proxy for this type of thinking. They often require logical thinking, planning, and it's a bit more of a mathematical approach to it. Also, difficulty is inherently subjective. The same problem or puzzle, which might be really trivial for one person, could be completely frustrating, overwhelming, or difficult for somebody else. So to kind of maintain challenge and promote sustained problem solving, we're trying to find puzzles that adapt to the individual user, that kind of prevent boring puzzles that are too easy and reduce frustrating puzzles that are too hard. So as such, I kind of wanted to see if it's possible to generate puzzles that are perfect, i.e. such that they're hard, so they're stimulating, but not too hard where it's just crazy, in real time. So the puzzle game I created was largely inspired by Cosmic Express. It is a pathfinding game about space aliens on trains. Each puzzle has a specific start and end point where the path must begin and end. It's not.
It's okay.
That's funny. Where am I here? Yes, okay, puzzle. Yeah, so again, this is based off Cosmic Express. Each puzzle has a start point and an end point, and it also has multiple pickup points or drop-off points. There's also cargo to be delivered, so you pick up cargo at pickup points and then drop them off at different drop-off points. Any pickup can go to any drop-off point, so there's no like description of where one must go to another one. Also, there's a single contiguous path that kind of represents the solution. Importantly, the path cannot overlap itself. So as such, to solve a puzzle, you have to find a path that delivers all of the cargo to the drop-off point. This setup is suitably challenging and reasonable for this system because there are a lot of different things that make certain puzzles challenging. So it could be long paths that make the puzzle hard. It could be many pickup points, sections that can only be visited once before being blocked off, things like that. Also, we're not guaranteed to only have one solution. So many puzzles exist with a bunch of different ways of approaching it and different ways that you can find a path that works for this. So here's a couple of examples. We have an easy, medium, and a hard puzzle. There we go. Okay, so yeah, as mentioned, I use a genetic algorithm to generate my puzzles. So we essentially start with random puzzles and then optimize them to a given difficulty. Originally, I tried generating a random set of pickup and drop-off points and then trying to use a pathfinding solver to generate a path for us. This worked really badly. So first, pathfinding algorithms are pretty slow, especially when we get into really big grid sizes. That can be solved and kind of mitigated a bit. But the biggest thing is pathfinding algorithms love to give us the shortest path. And when you have a shortest path, that is often a really bad puzzle. It could just be a straight line going through and then all the complexity is kind of taken away. So instead, we kind of pivoted and now we generate a solution as a path and then place obstacles around. So when we're optimizing or evolving in our genetic algorithm, we're doing so by improving our solution over time. This way also lets us optimize to any given difficulty. We just mapped the 1 to 10 scale for now, but there's no arbitrary bound for that. We can also generate medium difficulty puzzles or puzzles that are similar in difficulty but maybe differing slightly so that we can have a lot of nuanced control over the system. The big motivation was this real-time generation. For our user study on like a pretty low-end machine, we were able to get a puzzle generated in about 7 seconds for our most complex case, so reasonable enough for us. Difficulty is pretty difficult to quantify, but we can map specific elements of the puzzles to a weighted function to kind of give each puzzle a difficulty range. So then in order to adapt to the individual, we include a player modeling system, which kind of watches how the player interacts with the puzzles. It tracks various metrics such as the time to solve, the number of attempts, how close they got to a solution, things like that. It then evaluates these metrics, splitting them into hard constraints and soft constraints. The hard constraints just kind of prevent the puzzle from jumping all over the place, and the soft constraints kind of give us a bit more nuanced control. This player model then provides the genetic algorithm with the next difficulty to generate in the current state. So we can either increase, the current puzzles are too easy, decrease, they're too hard, or we can do nothing and the puzzles are relatively suitable at this stage. So our player kind of interacts with the puzzles from the genetic algorithm, which in turn receives difficulty from the player modeling system, which is watching the player the whole time as they play the puzzles. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, so since our system is kind of designed more subjective metrics in mind, like difficulty or frustration, we evaluated using a qualitative user study. Participants basically played through 3 different versions of the game. So one was our adaptive system with all these metrics that we were talking about before. One was time on task only. So the only way you could increase is if you solved the puzzle in a given time threshold. And then one was always increasing regardless of how people are doing on the puzzles. Tons of interesting results to discuss. We can chat more at the poster session, but in general, the adaptive model seemed to be relatively favored, producing decent sense of progression and appropriate challenge. Okay, yeah, so overall, this work kind of showed that it is indeed possible to generate personalized puzzles in real time, and that in general, this multi-metric personalization works better than just single metrics alone. Future work kind of includes more advanced player modeling approaches. Right now, we're essentially using functions to evaluate the player behavior with relatively trivial metrics. So this might be a really interesting place for reinforcement learning. There's certainly player behavior that we're not capturing that's nuanced that we're not getting out of it that can inform our generation. And then also applying this to learning tasks and mathematics or programming practice problems rather than just puzzles. This is largely something I'm going to be exploring in further areas of my PhD. Yeah, and then yeah, just thank you for listening. Yeah, thank you for listening. I want to acknowledge help from my lab, which is the Serious Games Research Group from the University of Calgary, as well as funding from NSERC. I will have a demo of the puzzle game up at my poster if you guys want to come try the puzzles out and see how it works. But yeah, thank you for listening.